Good afternoon, Brave fans. We're here for another Brave Live Self-Isolate. How are you, Sledge?
Oh, I'm good. It's a nice day outside, so it's good to get down here. We're at the Narrabundah Ballpark doing this from the Canberra Cavalry Stadium. It's a lot of fun to see everyone again for the first time when restrictions are kind of lifted a little bit. How have you been, Murray?
Yeah, very good. It is a lovely day here in Canberra. What would have been a lovely afternoon of hockey, but we are very lucky this afternoon. We've got some great guests. We've got Wahib Daj here with us in the studio, and we've got Stephen Hughes, amazing sports scientist, coming on to have a chat. We've got some interesting topics to talk to, and first up, I think, is an update on the Ahl League itself. We had a very interesting conversation from David Turek last weekend, talking about what may be coming up for us. So we've got, at the moment, not a lot of opportunity to play hockey, but we've got that looks really positive coming towards the end of the season. So we could have a potential season that runs through from September through to September, October, or some options and contingency plans being formulated, i.e. like 3-on-3, round robin style, which looks fantastic for the future. But we won't have a final decision until really July or August, as we can see how the COVID-19 situation plays out. And we've got an update on our memberships as well.
Yeah, so we've had some excellent news on that front where due to the teams joining together, the Cavalry and the Brave, we will pull through this. It has been a little bit up in the air of how everyone's handling it. The Brave will be fine, the Cavalry will be fine. We're going to make it through. Current members, they can choose to donate their membership. They can extend it through to the next season, or they can ask for a full refund. That has been emailed out to the members. So they do have options there. And yeah, we're looking good on that front so far. Yeah,
look, I think it's really good that the marrying of the Cavalry and the Brave has been fantastic for the club. The financial playback for that has obviously strengthened the team and allowed us to go through this season upset and disruption. But we're already looking forward to hopefully having some hockey later on in the year, but then also planning for our 2021 season. Which is fantastic and something that everyone can look forward to. And for our first guest that we have on today, as mentioned, we have our amazing second all-time point scorer, Wahib Daj.
How's it going?
Very good. It's great to see you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here.
All right, so if we wrote down all of Wahib's stats and accolades, it'd take up our whole screen. So I've got a few highlights here. So Wahib, you've got 347 points in the AIHL so far. That is insane, especially coming from a local player born here in Adelaide, Australia. 78 points for Team Australia as well in the Mighty Roos jersey. It's been a phenomenal season, career so far for you. And here we have it up here. Games 72, goals 53, 137 points. Points per game is sitting almost at 2. It has been absolutely amazing. So, do you want to start?
Well,
Murray?
I mean, I think the first thing to talk to Wahib about is obviously the very contentious move from Adelaide to Canberra. And you seem to thrive in Canberra. Was there, I guess, could you tell us a bit more about that move and what prompted it, and how have you found your time in Canberra since?
Yeah, so the move initially was, I think looking back a few years, and I was just a bit unsure about what I was doing, and I'd been playing with adrenaline for a lot of years, and we had been losing continuously for a long time, and that takes a toll on your mentality and your love for the sport after a while. And Jamie Wilson approached me, just said, "What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? We're putting together a really good team. Would love to have you." And it was he kind of caught me at the right time, I guess, and I want to win. Everyone wants to win, and I wanted to be part of a winning team, and that's exactly what we've done here in Canberra.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that you're an integral part of the success of the team. And we've had some really good seasons with you in the team over the last 4 years. Can you tell me, coming from last year's loss in the final. How has that made you feel? Like, do you feel like we're carrying some psychological scars? You often see teams that lose a final come in to the next season, and how they deal with that loss at the end of the previous season really helps define their success in the next season.
Yeah, it's tough, and probably the best analogy I can think of is if the NHL and Tampa Bay winning the league and then getting swept in the first round by Columbus. That's just unheard of, and it was a similar thing, but only having one game to produce and play, it's not the same thing. I think if we had a series where we had to lose multiple games to lose, it would be different. But with just one game, hockey's one of those sports that can go either way, and it didn't go our way that one game. I don't think we can hold on to it too much. It was tragic, and it is on the back of our minds a little bit, but I think it's probably going to put a fire in our belly for this year.
That's fantastic. How much do you think team culture plays into keeping that fire in the belly and keeping people looking forward and not dwelling on a sort of a loss? Yeah,
100%. The fire in the belly is really important, I think, and I think guys that do that really well, even when you're winning and you might want to rest on your laurels. We got guys like Joey Hughes that he's so passionate and so focused, and he's just like, guys, pull it in. Like, we might be up going into the third period, and he's just like, focus up. Like, this isn't a time to relax. Like, let's go and destroy these guys in the third, you know. And that leadership in the room is just awesome, and yeah, it's been great.
How do you think over the last few years, and even playing for the Adrenaline, how have you seen the league change?
I think it's probably changed kind of on par with hockey around the world. The game's kind of moved to be a little bit less physical, a lot more skill-based. Skating is so important these days. You could get away being a bit of a bigger, slower guy 10, 15 years ago, but now it's just, if you're going to get beaten a one-on-one so easily if that's the case, right? So the game's just got faster, it's got more skilled, and goalies have changed so much as well that shootings, everything's changed. The sport has just changed drastically, but all for the better, and I think it's more exciting for the fans. We just probably need to try and keep fighting in the game a little bit, just for the fans, you know?
Well, I mean, it's clear that one of your signature moves is speed. We've seen that a lot from you over the last few seasons, and some incredibly, almost impossible goal situations as well, as scrappy goals, as Sledge has described them on the stream many times. You've been around some impressive imports and locals really from the beginning of the Brave. Has there been any single player or coach that you feel has taken your own personal game to another level?
It's tough to say because, like you said, I played with a lot of really impressive players, imports and locals. But I think that the thing that kind of sticks out the most in my mind is two situations. One is Greg Oddie. Growing up under his guidance with the Adrenaline was just fantastic. He's an amazing player and he was a role model to me growing up. And also last year with Levs and Gerling, that was the year before last, sorry, when we won the championship. With Levs and Gerling, those two just complimented me so much, and yeah, it was a great line.
We did see some amazing little set plays from you guys, and also some amazing goals. Fast forward 10 years, would you see yourself still being involved in ice hockey, coaching, supporting, being a part of club management? What do you see for your future?
Yeah, look, the game of ice hockey has given so much to me here in Australia and abroad, but I 100% see myself involved. Early this year, in January, I went to Newcastle and helped coach the youth camps, and that was awesome. It was crazy to see what kind of skills that those kids were doing, and it was exciting stuff. And they're doing stuff that I was never doing, and half of it I couldn't even do now, you know. So it was really impressive. But yeah, definitely looking forward to being involved in the sport in the coming years.
It's really good to see that support for youth hockey. I know that former player Mark Rumakainen has been key here in Canberra in helping organise the junior kids, and seeing them get on the ice is fantastic, and the already passion building for the game. And Sledge, you have some questions for Wahib?
I do. So let's start off with a fun one. There's a couple of jerseys around here that you've worn for your playing career. You've played for a lot of teams over your span. What's your favourite design jersey that you've played in so far?
Design jersey. That's tough. I think, actually, I've played in a lot, but the Dare one that we played in, the black Dare one is awesome. That's just such a cool outfit. I love that one, actually, yeah.
It's a mint strip, that black, grey, white. It's
Yeah.
almost LA Kings
That's it,
kind
isn't
of
it?
style.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
My other one would be, what brought you to ice hockey in the first place?
So I started playing inline hockey when I was 5, and just with ice hockey and inline hockey being such close sports, a lot of people would play ice hockey and inline hockey. So I started seeing a lot of ice hockey players through inline, and they'd talk about it, and there's this rivalry, and I was like, I got to see what this ice hockey is. I'd never seen it, and then that was right around the time Mighty Ducks came out too, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, I 100% want to do that. So I got involved that way, and yeah, I kind of never really looked back. Yeah.
Have you tried to pull off the flying V in any game so far?
Yeah, I have, but no one followed, so it didn't work very well.
Is that because they couldn't keep up, though, to be fair, Wahib?
No, I wish I could say that, but no.
My next one is, you had a charity tournament, a golf tournament recently. Who on the team would you pick to be a playing partner for golf?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. It depends. If we were going for a social round, I think I'd probably pick Kai Newtonen, because it'd be awesome just to see him whiff on the ball every stroke. That'd be fantastic. Great company. But if it was a competitive game, I'd probably like to be challenged by Mitch Henning. We have a little rivalry play every now and then, and it's good fun.
Okay, you've been called out, Mitch. Get on the golf course. They're still running, so you have no excuse whatsoever.
Might help with some fitness coming up towards this potential season. Well, thanks for joining us, Wahib. We'll come back with Wahib a little later when we're talking to when we've given you guys the opportunity to ask some questions. If you've got a brave burning question for Wahib, get online and write it out for us so we can ask him this afternoon. So behind the success of the Brave over the last few years, we have had our mad sports scientist. I mean, to put it fairly, Steve Hughes is amazing and also a lovely guy. And he whips all of the boys into shape, and he joins us now. Thanks you, Steve Hughes.
Hey guys.
Hey, welcome to the program. How are you, Steve?
I'm good.
You're definitely one of the unsung heroes in the background of the Braves' success. What actually got you involved in the Brave?
I played a sport with some similarities to ice hockey, and so I started watching ice hockey through that, and I enjoyed watching it. And when I was doing my PhD studies, I contacted the Brave about doing some research with them, and the management are really good, and they were really keen to be involved, so I started involvement through that.
My first experience of meeting Stephen was actually seeing him hang all of these little sensors around the rink to plot people's position on the ice, which was fascinating that you got that sort of level of technicality into the sport. Since you've been involved, how have you seen the quality of the players shift with the kind of sports science that you're bringing in?
Essentially tried to increase the level of sports science or bring it up to par with professional sports that you have in Australia or Olympic sports. A lot of the stuff that we try and implement, you don't necessarily need huge budgets to implement. It's just about trying to teach people and change people's habits. So the boys have got better. It's all about trying to educate them, and they've definitely improved, I think, over the last few years.
Who's the most naturally athletic or talented individual that you've worked with, like in your career, but then also in comparison to that with the Brave?
In terms of in career, like I've worked with some Olympic athletes just through my other job. But in terms of Brave, and he didn't pay me to say this, but I'd definitely say the most naturally athletic talented would be Darji over there. And that's largely because he wouldn't be on my list for the hardest work ethic off the ice.
And coming up to work ethic, and also following on from our announcements about the season, we hear that you've got a little bit of a challenge that you've set for the guys. Can you give us some details about that?
Yeah, so just to try and give the guys something to motivate them a bit to keep active whilst everyone's in lockdown. We've got a little fitness challenge at the moment. It's going through a bunch of different, we have like a strength and power and cardiovascular endurance, a number of different challenges. So we're giving them a few days to complete each one. And so they get points based on where they sit in the pack. And we'll see at the end of it who comes up as the best overall athlete.
Fair enough. And this is probably a question that would be interesting to a lot of people out there during this self-isolation period. But how can we get our team back into shape after a period like this where they haven't had the opportunity to go to the gym and exercise normally? Is there a strategy that you would put in place to help a team, I guess, quickly get themselves back into shape?
Yeah, we have to start off by giving them like a week or two where we try and work them back into it. If we smash them at the beginning, that's not going to be good for anyone. But we might, on the back of the challenge, if people are moving more, we might try and get them back into the gym, do more exercise, and then once we can get into doing actual gym work, then we can really get the guys going hard for it.
And do you find there's a difference with the way that the imports train versus our locals, I guess, in comparison to, say, sports science in other countries?
I think the large difference is that with the imports, they're coming from teams that have full-time staff. So they have people on their back all the time, and they have a different level of training just because, they have access to gyms all year round, and they have staff to check up on them. So I think that's the main difference. I think our athletes here do really, really well because they have to a certain degree, do more of the, they have to be honest with themselves and keep themselves going to the gym and keep themselves motivated to a little bit of an extent. But if you can teach the guys to do things, then they're actually being quite good and they go and do it. So it's more about just educating the guys because they won't always have the stuff that the imports have overseas.
And I thought was an interesting question, but is there any way to quantify the improvement after a sports scientist has been involved? Could you tell from the start of a season to the end of the season whether a team's been able to increase their average speed or their average resilience or,
So, I mean, with you testing that you can do, you can either do testing similar to our challenge we're doing now where, you do strength testing or power testing and you can measure the change like from the beginning to the end of the season. Or you could also look at video analysis, which we've done with the Brave, where we code the video footage from matches. And you could also look at some of the KPIs, key performance indicators of matches, whether it's turnovers or breakouts or something like that. So there's a number of different ways you can try and assess how a team is going. And obviously, ideally you want to use everything, but it all comes down to time and money. So we try and be as efficient as possible with what we can do with the guys.
And you are also writing a paper using data from the Brave. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my PhD is looking at fatigue. And so when I approached the Canberra Brave management, it was about performing a study using the ice hockey guys because they back up and do multiple matches in a weekend, which is unusual for Australian sport. I wanted to look at whether fatigue accumulated between matches compared to weekends where they only had a single match. And so that's where we collected the data using the indoor positioning system of all the players. And we did pre and post tests, which test their strength and power. And we did that across the season around all their matches, with the hope of measuring whether the accumulated fatigue was greater when they did multiple matches, and whether or not you might be able to measure that and adjust for it in training, like throughout the week.
And Sledge, I think you've got some questions for Stephen.
I do. Now, Steve, so it's no secret that the Brave Cave has an explosive atmosphere. When you walk in there, everything just goes insane. What was your first game day experience like?
The atmosphere of the Brave Cave is just insane. Like, it's unrivaled. Of all the other venues I've been to, it's just the close atmosphere with the size of it means that everything seems loud, and the fans, like, they turn up so early for matches, and that shows, like, when they get in there and the match finally starts, like, they're really revved up. I remember when we were setting up for our, like, research, I'd be there at 12 some days to set up, and there would be fans already sitting outside waiting in line to buy tickets, and it was like the puck drop wouldn't be for 5 hours. I'm like, that's the level of fan that you have, and that shows when you're in that small rink, just through the noise and the excitement.
Yeah, it's always fun when you first turn up and people are waiting at the gate. They offer you a cookie or a brownie and you got to turn it down trying to be the fitness coach there. My next one is, which player have you seen the most improvement out of since you've joined the CBR Brave?
Some of the young guys have really taken on board. I mean, obviously they're trying to push out the really athletic and skillful players. So some of them have really taken training on board, and they're actually training quite hard outside of their ice sessions. I would say some of the hardest workers are probably, out of the young guys, are probably Tets and Mitch. They both do a fair amount of work, and they essentially, you know, when you give them advice, they listen and they go and do it.
My next one is, how is your skating? Have you tried? Have you got out there with the guys yet?
Oh, sorry, you're just a bit quiet.
Oh, sorry. I was just asking, have you got out there on the skates yet?
Yeah, I would say I'm not a great skater. I actually really enjoy watching training sessions because the guys are just phenomenal. So I've spent some time learning to skate. This was after 2018, and it was a pretty slow process. And I literally started going around the dashboards holding on. But I managed to get in about 4 months, get up to a point where I could kind of do crossovers and a little bit of back crossovers. So not a great skater, but I'd really like to improve.
Excellent. Thanks very much for your time, Steve. What have you got next on the agenda?
Sledge, I think it's time to get the people involved. So if you've got a question for Steve or for Wahib, comment online, and we're going to go into our next segment called Brave Burning Questions. So do we have any questions coming up from the live feed? So no questions at the moment. Wahib, how do you take that you are the most naturally talented, but maybe because of the fact that you haven't done as much work off the ice?
Oh, that I just need a six pack for that. We already pre-talked about it. No, I guess it puts a little bit of pressure on me coming up with this fitness challenge, doesn't it? But no, thank you, Steve. I appreciate that.
And Steve, you're also traditionally you've been in Canberra, but you're now in Sydney at UNSW. Is that correct?
I work at the New South Wales Institute of Sport. So my day job, is in Sydney. So same as last year. So I drive down to Canberra for all the matches that I could, and also go to the Newcastle matches where possible, and any in Sydney. And then I was also driving there for fitness sessions to run them occasionally with Cam Moore, our physio. So it's a bit harder being further away, but there's only so many jobs in exercise science, so you've got to take what you can get.
Fair enough. We've got some good questions coming through at the moment. from Curious Georgie. I think we might know who that is. Hi, Stephen. Long-time listener, first-time caller here. In all the fitness tests you've done for the Brave, which player was the best with pull-ups?
Pretty sure the best in pull-ups definitely be Mike Georgie. I remember 2018, pumped out a good 15 pull-ups, strict. He definitely showed up some of the boys. We just got to get him on the ice more though, so he can prove on the ice that he's just as good.
Yes, I think we're all hoping for Georgie to get on the ice. That flow that he brings onto the ice can challenge some of the best in the league, I suspect. And overrated player has asked, I think this would to Wahib, if you were to bring an NHL strategy such as the Lightning 1-3-1 or the 1-4 defense into the team's play style, which one would you most like to and why?
This is going back a while, so I'm not sure if they actually still use it, but the Swedish trap would probably be my go-to, which is a bit of a forecheck / trap with the Detroit Red Wings use, and I'm not sure if they're still using it, but it's very effective and it's quite easy to teach, and I grew up loving that and blew my mind when teams wouldn't teach it to us, but yeah, that would probably be what I would bring.
And I got another question for Wahib from Daniel Tritolt 1. Wahib, do you train your skills during the off-season, and if so, what does that look like?
Yeah, so up until only a couple of years ago, I didn't really have much of an off-season with playing overseas, but last year was my first off-season, and it was a pretty light off-season. I took as much time away as I could, but this last off-season, I was training with Silky Hands Hockey, which is Dan Tetro in Canberra, and we did some really awesome stuff where it's all based a lot of upper body stuff around the hands and the shooting and just stick handling stuff, and it was awesome. I was looking forward to putting it into the games this year, so hopefully we can continue doing that and it will pay off.
And a question from Warren Price. Are you able to start getting on the ice to train with the restrictions in general starting to lift? And if you have, what's it like getting back on the ice after what was probably a pretty long break? So I think there hasn't been any ability to get back on the ice at this point, as the ice rink is still not open. But what do you think it will be like after such a long break?
It's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. Hopefully the ice will be pretty fresh, and guys are going to be roaring to get out there, I think, so it'll be really good. A lot of fun, and yeah, I think it's gonna this season with such a long break, if it does go ahead, you're gonna see fire in everyone's belly throughout the league, I think, just because it's been that long without hockey.
Absolutely. And if anyone else would like to type in and ask a question, tell us about your unicycle hockey career, Steve. That's from Mitchell Henning.
Oh, thanks, Mitch. Stitch up. So the sport that I play, which is got similarities to ice hockey, is unicycle hockey. So it's played indoor courts on a unicycle with ice hockey stick and tennis ball. So that's why I appreciate ice hockey a lot, because the stick skills is all similar. In unicycle hockey, like I play for Australia, but we have a lot less people to compete against to make that team than you do in ice hockey.
And from Joseph Matuk, he's asked, how does Wahib keep his hair so nice?
A lot of practice. I wake up and spend a solid 2 hours in front of the mirror. So I won't give away any secrets, though.
And Tristan Metcalf has asked, Stephen Hughes, what are your favourite pair of high-top shoes?
I think my favourite pair are the DC ones with the red and the black. They're probably my favourite out of all of them. Classic choice. And Catherine Woods has asked, Wahib, how does roller hockey compare to ice hockey?
It's tough to compare them. Yeah, they're very similar, but in some ways, but in other ways, they're completely different. I would say if you're going to look at roller hockey, if you're going to try and compare them, it's probably more similar to 3-on-3, where it's not so. It's obviously there's no contact or no real hitting in inline hockey. So it's a lot more skill based, and it's a lot more about positioning. You can't get caught out, and unfortunately, I haven't played inline hockey since I was 15. It's been a long time, but I still have a love for it in my heart from my youth. But there's some differences, and it's probably comes down to the positioning and the skill of the game.
Fair enough, and I don't think there are any more questions, so I think we'll wrap this up here. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Wahib. It's been great having you on board. Brave fans, stay well, and we're looking forward to our next episode, and then hopefully we'll have some more positive news about players getting back on the ice and future developments for the competition. Thanks, Sledge, and thanks to our amazing production team from Wonqy. We'll see you guys soon.